Let's take a quick look back at the last few videos and what we've been covering. First, we were asking, how does science feel about astrology? And we decided that science means different things at different times, and it has progressed since the 17th century, when Newton and others ushered in the mechanical universe, the universe as a machine. So it has progressed quite a bit. And a lot of that, what they thought of as matter, has changed. At least our understanding of it has changed. So, first of all, we looked at physics and how that has changed. And then we also asked about evolution. Like, what is the role of the organism in evolution? And we said that, well, humans, as the product of evolution, use reason to exist and to modify their environment and to choose to live well and to live better. And we were looking at Alfred North Whitehead's writing at that point. So then we extended that to say, okay, reason then, um, even atoms and so-called material particles, it would make more sense if they have some sort of early, like, inklings of reason. Not that they're sitting thinking through, how should I behave? Or what do I want, how do I want to modify my environment? But they have some urge towards relationship, some urge towards um, something better, usually something more complex. And as a result of all of those urges over billions of years, then eventually a thinking, reasoning, feeling organism emerged, the human being. But so in that process, we decided that matter makes choices. Even the most tiniest speck of matter, whatever that may be, has the capacity to choose creativity, to choose to create something different. They are not obliged just to follow laws. So I didn't mention it at the time, but some people feel that through their choices, then atoms are actually maybe even creating the laws or patterns of behavior. But then, of course, we started looking at Jungian psychology, and we thought that there is a collective unconscious. So maybe in this collective unconscious, the archetypes are being expressed not only through human life and through nature, but also through the activities of elementary particles and atoms. So that would mean somewhere there's some sort of correspondence between the archetypes in the collective unconscious and the aspect of particles that has some measure of consciousness. They have some sort of inherent directed nature. They somewhere inside every particle is a drive to become part of something bigger, let's say. So that's different from saying, well, every particle is obliged to follow the laws. Because if every particle is obliged to follow the laws, but by the time you get to the human, there's choice, how did that change take place? Right? It seems more sort of universal, or to say that everything is part of this whole, everything manifests the same pattern because everything is part of the collective, is built upon or from within the collective unconscious. So we saw there were parallels between the collective unconscious and the void in physics. And so what we're saying when we talk about astrology then, because I did talk about astrology a bit more in the last video, what we're saying is that astrology shows us the connection between the archetypes that are expressed through matter and through the mechanics of the solar system, for instance, and the archetypes that are expressed in nature and plants and living organisms and in the human. So although we all have a like an internal character, sort of a different levels of it, maybe we are all manifesting the same archetypes in different ways. In Obviously humans manifest archetypes in higher levels, but maybe matter has built it up into the human over time, and as time goes by, then a greater level can be manifested um, to the new organisms each time. So this makes everything seem actually very united, right? So yes, it does make sense that there are patterns in nature. It does make sense that you can have the same patterns in human life and human thought because they're all derived from the same place. Now, original consciousness or universal consciousness or the collective unconscious, we can identify that as source or the origin of everything. Um, it's a little harder to identify it with the monotheistic God of the Judeo-Christian and Muslim traditions. Um, and I'm going to talk about that in future videos. But basically, some people think that that there is a consciousness that we all emerge from within consciousness, but the brain is that organ within the human that filters out certain parts of consciousness. Know that I think of it quite in that way. I'll have to think about how I do think about it. Obviously, I haven't thought about it enough. Um, but that's not uncommon way of thinking about it. But basically, I guess I do feel that we are all emerging from an original consciousness. And not from, actually. I feel like we are emerging within an original consciousness. And therefore, that we are, in a sense, we are all part of that original consciousness. So I could claim that we're all God. I wouldn't have too much of a problem with that, except that the way that we think about God is too Judeo-Christian. But there's a meaning to the whole Judeo-Christian history, and that's very important. And it has changed quite a bit, obviously, once we get to Alfred North Whitehead. Um, and if we are allowing any validity to astrology, that also brings in another big change. But that is not such a new thing. That is pretty much the way that everybody would have seen nature and astrology in the past. Astrology has come and gone in history. Um, I'm going to be talking about Richard Tarnas's book, Cosmos and Psyche, which is, I would say, one of the best books ever written. So that will definitely, well, the whole book actually helps us to understand archetypal astrology and also gives lots and lots of evidence throughout history how it has worked. Okay, so more coming.